All right, so a good programming uh, discipline is separation of concerns. And one great way to implement that is to make sure that all of your scripting and all of your analytics is running inside of your Google Tag Manager. So when I first got with these guys, I can show you what the original looked like. Let's see here. Yeah. So they had their consent cookie, they had AdWords, Google Tag Manager, they had Hotjar, they had HubSpot, and that's just in the custom code in the site settings. They had also tons and tons of one-off scripts inside individual pages and also individual templates. So it just what happens is that sounds fine, but JavaScript does not play well with other JavaScript. There's something called global namespace pollution, which is basically if you name a variable one place and you try to name, you have the same variable somewhere else, they'll conflict and it'll cause all kinds of havoc. So that is a huge problem. So what is good to do is have all of your code that's marketing or otherwise that's adding functionality. This could be for account-based management, it could be like the data enrichment tools, business intelligence, helping us identify logos that are on the site. So you got your Google Analytics, and those are all variables. Like some of them pull from cookies, some of them are the actual value of the tag. Google Ads, HubSpot. So you just have all your stuff here, and then so I've moved Webflow junk. It's not Webflow, right? Like it's not Webflow's code. It's code that was in Webflow that shouldn't have been there. So I'll give you an example. Like this logic right here makes it so that the testimonial pages, when you first load the page, it goes to the second one because they want it to have this one right here. So it as you go down, it just moves it to the second one. And then you have this one that makes it so this number, let's make this do this. So it makes it so that number goes up, and on and on. But the idea is that you have everything in one spot. Somebody was just given free reign, but there's somebody that had created global components that were just blocks of code. So, being the documentarian that I am, I am making note of where it was, but I am like, this was a terrible mistake. So, value, it was under a group called Value Props. I'm trying to think. I think there's still, yeah. So Value Props components, and it was, so it was basically, it was code that was put inside as an element. So it was embedded code as an element inside of this global component. Can you imagine the nightmare that you could unleash on yourself? It's like, why did we just mess up this whole page because we changed the design? Well, because you put a Trojan horse virus into one of your components. Like, they should not have embed code as an option. There should be like one that's like an option deep in the site settings. Do you hate yourself? Okay, well then you can enable it. So this is just good hygiene. This is stuff that, when you look at your site, when you look at your analytics, when you look at your numbers, everything's lining up, everything's organized. So you're not It's very common to set something up ad hoc and then get the numbers. And if it doesn't look like what you think it should, to just like lose faith in the system completely because it was just ad hoc. Um, Other cool thing about Google Tag Manager that you cannot do in Webflow is you can make the distinction between staging and live. So let's take a look at what that looks like. I've got versions here, and they're currently all on the same version. But so, like for example, staging was on version 17 until a couple days ago. So all this stuff all these changes that I made, so I migrated the script over to these websites, and all these other changes, I can take the staging Google Tag Manager container and apply it to the actual live site. It'll swap it out, but only for me, like in a debugging mode. So you can actually apply it to the live site before you even push it live, just to make sure it'll work. So this is like control over quality at a whole other level. And it just makes everyone feel more confident and secure in the attribution modeling. And, you know, when someone's talking about return on ad spend or, you know, whatever number, it's like, oh yeah, like you want to peek under the hood and be like, you know, is there dust all over the carburetor or is this a clean machine? So that's kind of something that I think is very important. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth pointing out about Google Tag Manager. Okay, so like one thing that I am struggling with is so the client has their app and it's on a different subdomain, and the developers and the marketing people don't play well together apparently. So I have a meeting next week to talk about it, but they don't have a Google Tag Manager script on here. What they're actually doing is something pretty sophisticated. They're using PostHog, but not as a script. They're using the API. So basically, you can see, so I'm filtering just for PostHog stuff. And what it's doing is it's sending updated, it's sending events through the API to the analytics program. And the payload is encrypted. So that way you can send like information like someone's email or whatever. So here's what I'm proposing for them is, okay, you don't want to add Google Tag Manager. I totally get that. Let's do PostHog, and if I look into their PostHog configuration, let's see. Actually, I need to go back to the. I think they actually have to send it every time. Let's see here. Let's go back to JavaScript, and we got to look at the PostHog config. I think it's right here. Yeah. So this is like the config settings. So inside of here, this is the account key. So if I wanted to be kind of a punk, I could just start sending them analytics from the marketing website into, but I don't want to like do that because I think that would be obviously raunchy. But what I would like to do is say like, hey, you guys have this already set up. Why don't you let me also post information into your existing account, and then give me access to the account. And that way you don't have to do, basically what I'm trying to do is tell them, hey, you don't have to change a dang thing except for give me an account and give me access. And I'll do everything else I can. And this kind of is also the mindset you bring to like link building, where you want someone to do something for you and you do everything you can around them so they have to do as little as possible. Okay, so that's a great transition into the last point that I want to make about Google Tag Manager, which is just like they are using an API instead of actual JavaScript on the page, you can do that too. Everyone can do that. Everyone should be doing it. And that's like another thing that I feel like I bring to the table is like that very sophisticated, next level implementation. So why does it matter? First of all, every little bit you have on the website, like putting it all into a Google Tag Manager and consolidating it is good for organizational reasons, for performance reasons. But at the end of the day, you still have to do all that JavaScript inside there. But what these guys are doing is they are just posting payloads to a system, and there's no computation having to happen. There's nothing that's happening in the browser, like any kind of CPU time that's being used. So that's great because like stuff I would want to do for account-based management. There are. Let me see. I was looking at this today. There are codes that are specific to different locations. If I have the table here, I was digging around with it. Well, anyways, like let's say you have a really long list of ID codes, and in one column is like the number, and then the next column is like everything you want to know about that company. Well, are you going to take the time inside of your website to be like, oh, while they're browsing, I'm just going to go ahead on the side and add all this information and then push it through JavaScript? It's like, no, you have to get it off the client immediately into a server, and then you can do all that to your heart's content. You can do as much as you want. You can, match them with their favorite celebrities. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to affect the browser performance at that point. So it's kind of this different way of thinking about analytics. And so what you do actually is you take your Google Tag Manager here and you host it on a basically like a Docker container or something similar. And then there are web-based containers that you can use. And they look a little bit different, but let's see, I don't know if I have one set up here. Oh, yes, I do. Okay, so this is for my own site. So I have a web container, and I have a server container. And so what the server container does is it's a lot more, it's set up quite different, right? Because what you have to have is you have to have clients that are set up to receive information from certain streams. So basically, instead of running JavaScript on your site, what you're doing is you're sending query parameters like constantly. You're basically just constantly sending query parameters to an endpoint, and then it's taking those query parameters and then like putting them into the server. So instead of, you know how much faster that would be, right? Like instead of running JavaScript, you're like literally all you have to do is click a link, and then as soon as the query parameters show up, boom, they're gone. They're been sent into outer space. So it's way, way faster, and you can do really cool things. So like transformations here, basically anything that you want to allow or change. So like, let's say, you are taking in information from a client, and we want to we pass in that location code. Well, now what we want to do is take the location code, take the locations, match them together, enrich the data before we send it on. So it's a really cool, very worthwhile thing to do, and it's a standard. Whenever I put proposals together, it's like a standard quick win because it doesn't take too long. Yeah, so I'll stop it there. Good news is you can actually play these at 2 times speed. So